And a good football Friday morning. How are you, folks? You got your boys Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. We got a good one planned for you over the next 2 hours. We got a good Eagle guy. We got a good national guy. We got an MFer and an MVP. The MFer being Mark Farzetta, the MVP being Matt Verderam, who's a player these days for Sports Illustrated, moved over from Fanside to join Johnny's squad on SI. So keep right where you've got it for the next 2 hours. Johnny Mac, Ezekiel Elliott, a Philadelphia Eagle. Say it so, buddy.
Yeah, big name. I'm going to call it Big Name Friday, Jody. Not only Ezekiel Elliott, Keanu Neal coming in for a visit. There's rumblings about Devin White down in Tampa Bay. When people hear familiar names, they get excited. You remember 2015? Look, I don't like when people say, "Oh, Ohio State quarterbacks can't play because of Arch Schlichterback." He's gambling, right. and that has anything to do with C.J. Stroud. Same thing. DeMarco Murray has nothing to do with Ezekiel Elliott, other than it's similar in that they ran DeMarco Murray into the ground, had a great, season, 1,800 yards, well over 400 touches. He was basically cooked at the end of that. It came to Philadelphia, was very disappointing, had 2 more years where, the numbers weren't bad because they gave him the football a lot in Tennessee, but there was no juice. There was no juice left. Same thing with Ezekiel Elliott. Guy was a great back, a great back. But, man, he touched the football a lot over his first 4 seasons. And he hasn't been the same since. It's been a slow decline, and it ain't getting better. I mean, he might be a little bit, but last year he fell under 4 yards a carry. It might get a little better behind the Eagles' offensive line, which we always talk about. Yeah, it might get up to 4, but the juice is gone. It's not worth it. I will say, he's a really good pass protector, and the Eagles haven't had that in the backfield in years. But that's kind of like you make fun of me with Zach Pascal. Yeah, all right. I mean, similar. That's why you're bringing in a back to – and by the way, he's not even going to be the third down back. So what's the point? Same thing. I mean, all right, great. He can pass protect, and few running backs can do that in the modern NFL. So it is a unique skill. But no, it's not a fit. And I think it's more – coming from his end of the spectrum of, I'd like to play for the Eagles. He's probably looking at the NFC and seeing the same thing I am. Plus, you get that double down. You can give Jerry Jones a little kick in the butt as well for releasing him. But, I still think it'd probably rather go to Cincinnati for obvious reasons, get back to Ohio. But, And the Jets, your Jets were the other, and they got a young back. I don't know why they would want him other than to collect, another big name after they get Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, man, I wouldn't go near it.
You and I see this very similarly. I'm not going to set it. It sounds like you're almost at flat 0 chance that it can happen. I won't go there. I'll go about 2%. Because I do think he's got a little something left in the tank. He did score 12 touchdowns this year. So he's still got a nose for the end zone. He is surely not the player he once was. He is absolutely a declining player. But sometimes you can decline and still be useful in some way, shape, or form. You talk about team-friendly deal. We toss that phrase around every once in a while, John. It would have to be an uber team-friendly deal. Another phrase we use from time to time is ring chasing or ring shopping. If he really believes that the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC and he just wants to get that championship ring, something he sure as hell didn't get in Dallas, and he thinks the Eagles give him the best chance to get it, and he's willing to come in on a veteran minimum deal, yeah, I'd have some interest in Ezekiel. I can't just dismiss and say, no interest, no chance, lose our telephone number, don't be bothered. No, I'd at least have a conversation Do I think something will get done? No, I absolutely do not. I don't think he's ready to play for that veteran minimum yet. And I do believe that what happened yesterday, and it was an Adam Schefter. I was driving around in the car and I first heard it on WIP that Schefter was reporting that Ezekiel had trimmed his list of preferred destinations to 3, one of which is Cincinnati, old stomping ground, 2, the Jets, play with Aaron Rodgers, and 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. One thing came immediately to mind for me when I heard the Eagles' name. This was a very well decided upon and scripted list of 3. If you want my prediction right here, right now, who do I think Zeke Elliott is going to play for this year? I'll give it to you. The Dallas Cowboys. I think this was a thinly veiled attempt to get under Jerry's skin to say, oh, shoot, what happens if he ends up with the Eagles and we end up losing the week 17 game because Ezekiel Elliott scores 2 touchdowns to the Eagles, and I let Zeke walk out the door and never even made him an offer to come back. Yeah, that's what I see this as. He's still looking to rejoin the Cowboys, maybe juice up their offer a little bit, let them get scared that he could go to the Eagles and poke them in the eye late in the season this year. That's what the first thing that came to mind when I heard this was, oh, he's lobbying to get back to the Cowboys. This is a play at making the Cowboys worry. Oh, snap. What if he lands with the Eagles on a cheapy deal and he actually has a hand in beating us for the NFC East this upcoming year? That was the first thing that popped into my mind. He knows his chances of landing with the Eagles are slim and none. Well, why don't I just put it out there into the universe to make the Cowboys think about it, and maybe I can get a couple more bucks or any offer at all to go back to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I do think he's going to end elsewhere, so we don't agree there because I sometimes I give other teams too much credit. I'll admit that because I cover the Eagles, and I too the Eagles typically make good decisions. I give them credit for that. They're not always right. They're not always work, but you understand the decision making. I've been talking about that all week with Chicago. I don't understand the decision making, so I probably give too much credit to other teams for not making dumb decisions. But if you're going to pay Tony Pollard $10 million, why are you bringing Ezekiel Elliott back for anything, other than the veteran minimum? And is he willing to play for the veteran minimum? I don't. Maybe he has to. I doubt it, because there are too many teams that will get enamored with the reputation. And he's still a decent player. I'm not saying he can't play at all. I do. Aren't we past the 12 touchdown thing? So I know he had 12 touchdowns, but I mean, his longest run was 27 yards. They used him in a specific role. All right, he's a big guy. He's powerful. When they get down there, they let him have the football. That doesn't impress me that much. I look at where he was, as a rookie when he was probably the best running back in football. Let's be honest, over 5 yards a carry. And then the slow decline. And last year, for the first time, under 3.8 yards per carry, under 4, 3.8 was the total. And so that stuff doesn't tend to turn around as you get late in his career. And he's only 27 years old, but remember, he's played 7 seasons. And we're talking about and when you add in the receptions, because he's a pretty good outlet receiver as well. That's the biggest thing I give.
Right. And that dropped off drastically this year. You want to talk about a drop off? That was his biggest drop off. He caught
that's because
one pass a game out of the backfield this year, 17 catches for the entire season.
That's because he can catch. He can still. He's a really good receiver, but they found a better receiver. He's got more juice. So then that to me is not like he can't do it. It's just they found somebody better. But he was at 350 touches as a rookie. Then he only played 10 games, but in those 10 games, he was near 300 touches in 2017. Then he was at 380 in 2018. Then he was at 360 in 2019. In the history of the NFL, you can look at it all over the place. The history of DeMarco Murray's the most obvious comparison because he, was in Dallas, came to Philly. When you have that many touches, bang, it's like falling off a table.
Yep.
So the Eagles know this. The Eagles are one of the most analytically advanced organizations when it comes to this kind of stuff in the league. They of all teams, I don't think they're going down this path. I like your leave the door open 2%. I always like to leave the door open 2%. But they are so immersed in this analytic stuff. They know the history of backs who touch it that much and where it's going. Boy, I can't see in a million years. I think it's more of, and I always say this, because of Howie's reputation, agents around this league, when they have a player they're trying to shop around, you see all these stories, and I joke, ... and the Eagles. Who's interested? It could be Chicago and Dallas and Kansas City, ... and the Eagles. In this case, with Schefter, was the Jets and the Bengals, ... and the Eagles. You're trying to get, Howie's in. Let's try to get that market up. I think Cincinnati's the most logical spot because I think they're fed up with Mixon. He's got a history there at Ohio State. They see themselves as a contender. Maybe they're willing to go the veteran routes. But Philadelphia, they need a running back. I'm not sitting here and saying you can depend on Rashad Penny or Kenny Gainwell, but I don't think this is the running back.
Yeah, nor do I. This was for me a not all that veiled attempt to get back to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see if it plays out that way. Maybe the Cowboys have completely washed their hands of him. I don't know. I thought the combination of the two last year, Zeke and Pollard in Dallas, was pretty damn productive for them. So why wouldn't you? You're only locked in
money.
Elliott.
I mean, you're paying the guy franchise tag money, Tony Pollard. He signed his tender. Now they have until whatever.
All right, so who do you think the second Cowboy back is going to be?
It's going to be a young guy. I don't know who they have there. It could be a draft pick. We talked about the draft being very deep at the running back position. But that's what I mean. If they're a smart organization, and you can make that argument they're not, you're not going to pay one running back franchise tag money and then pay another back decent money. That's poor allocation. That's what I'm saying. Now, sometimes I give other teams too much credit. We talked about it, all-ball linebacker in the Bears. You don't do that. Well, they did it. Maybe the Cowboys do it, but I think they're smarter than that. I think, but we'll see.
Right. But what kind of contract do you think Zeke's going to get? From whatever team it is, the team that's willing to pay him the most money. If he decides, listen, I'm going to line everybody up. Yeah, ring chasing is nice. Whoever offers me the most money, that's what I think he'll get. Who do you think would be that team, and what kind of money do you think that would be?
I think he'll get $5 million in incentives that can get it way up because of his reputation.
Yeah, I don't even think he'll get that. I think he's down there in the above veteran minimum. Incentives is probably a pretty good idea if you want to cut that type of a deal with him, if you can get him to bite on it. But I don't think he's going to get anywhere near $5 million. I don't what type of team would make a play for a guy like that. The only one I can think of would be a team that is close to making the playoffs and they have a desperate need for running back, and adding him could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. Then maybe you'd pay a premium for him, and a premium is a massive reduction from what he was making last year. I don't even know who that team is.
Well, I think the three teams that they all fit. They all fit. But the Eagles, what they forgot about, and is that they're really, disciplined. Cincinnati, I think they're fed up with Mixon, some of the off the field stuff. They're always dealing with something. they're a legitimate contender. There's no question about that.
Agreed.
And they have history. They don't have history with Zeke, but Zeke has history at Ohio State. So you have that. The fan base would be so excited to get a name like that. So you play off that. The Jets are gearing all up. I mean, the Jets are going to get Aaron Rodgers. They're bringing in Alan Lazard. They're bringing in all his buddies. He's a knucklehead. He's going to say, "Oh, we can get Ezekiel Elliott. Let's bring him in." You're starting to prey on your poor Jets, and the Jets are going to be a good team. By the way, they're going to be a good football team. Not going to be a contender, but because when they get Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be a good football team. So, I mean, these teams were picked for a specific reason. And the Eagles were picked because they're the Eagles, they're a contender, and they need a running back. But again, the back end is, they do need a running back, but they're way too disciplined to bite on this particular running back. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're giving him, it's funny, I'm giving him more credit for what I think he can produce next year. You sound like you think he's done, but I think the market is going to dictate he's not getting paid by anybody. Most teams have already, if they don't have bigger needs than Ezekiel Elliott, they don't have cap space to give him a decent contract. I think he's going to, he can throw out all 32 teams' names, and I don't know if he's going to get anywhere near $5 million. All right, Jody Mac, Johnny Mac, the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. Told you we got two good guests coming your way. One Eagle specific, one national specific. First up is our bud, Mark Farzetta, host of the Farzy Show, and also the JAKIB Media Eagles pregame show. We haven't talked to Farzy in about a month. We're due to get a Farzy update. It's coming up next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game